Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 7:20 p.m. Welcome to tonight's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the public may participate in this public hearing. All participants will be able to speak when called upon. At this time, I would like to explain the procedures to be followed during this meeting. The Commission has both a consent agenda and an agenda for consideration of individual items. Individual items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-contested. Item number 1 on our agenda is citizen comments, and this provides the opportunity for members of the public to address the Commission on items that are listed on the on the consent agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and the Secretary will let you know when 1 minute is left. For all plats and plans conditionally approved or disapproved by the Commission, the applicant was provided a written statement of the conditions for the conditional approval or the reasons for disapproval. These conditions and reasons are not arbitrary. They are directly related to the requirements of Local Government Code Chapter 212 and include citations to the law that is the basis for the conditional approval or disapproval. This is the part that you all care about, probably. For individual consideration items, I will call the applicant or his or her representative to present the case. The applicant will have up to 5 minutes to present the case, which includes all persons representing the application. Then, those wishing to speak in favor of and those wishing to speak in opposition will have 5 minutes each to present his or her comments. The applicant will have 5 minutes to answer questions or provide rebuttal if there is opposition. Prior to speaking, please give your name and city of residence. Remember to speak directly into the microphone, as this hearing is recorded for the public record. Any handouts you wish to provide should be given to staff. Kenneth Bloom is the most convenient for you. Applicants are not required to stay for the entire duration of the meeting and may leave once their item has been heard. The next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission will be Monday, March 2nd, 2026. So the next item on our agenda is citizen comments on items listed on the consent agenda. April, has anyone signed up to speak on any item on the consent agenda?
No one signed up. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. The next items are the consent agenda. Secretary Myrick, would you please read the consent agenda into the record?
Yes, I have 2 items.
Turn your mic on.
There we go. Yes, I have 2 items. The first one is the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission's minutes of Monday, January 5th, 2026. The second one is number 2026-6-PL, Northgate Villas Addition, amended replat. This is located at 3607 through 3623 Portland Street.
We'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. To approve. Motion carries 8-0 for the consent agenda approval. Secretary Myrick, would you please read the consent agenda for disapproval?
For disapproval, I have 1, 2026-5-PL, Quad Addition Number 2, replat, located at 906 King Avenue.
I'll accept a motion to disapprove on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to disapprove. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please approve. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. We will now move on to the individual items. The first item is zoning case 2025-365-ZC. Is the applicant here? If you'll come down front, we'll hear from you. Please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening. My name is Forrest Branham. I reside in North Richland Hills, Texas, 76182.
Is the microphone on?
If you could push your
At the base
microphone.
of the microphone? Can you bring it up a little
Testing,
closer?
testing. Testing.
Yeah, just a little higher.
Testing, testing. Okay. My name is Forrest Branham. I reside in North Richland Hills, Texas, 76182. I am not the applicant, but I'm here on their behalf. I also registered to speak, so I'll give that time back. The proposed project, Courts Cottonwood Creek, is a for-sale housing project that's in partnership with the City of Irving, Soul Development and Housing Channel. If we could go to the next slide, I'd like to explain.
You're welcome to pull the drawer out for the mouse.
Oh, great. Excellent. The request is located at 3801 Pleasant Run Road. A lot of this was covered during the working session, and so I'll be brief, but it is a for-sale project, as I mentioned, prioritizing 80% AMI households, up to 65% of the units, and then 81 to 120% AMI for the other 35% of the units. Housing Channel is serving as the lead developer, with Soul Development as the secondary developer. And Housing Channel has a long history, 30-plus years of working with the City of Irving, a number of successful projects. This is the context around the site. South approaching north on Pleasant Run Road. The site would be on the left coming up Pleasant Run Road, so there is a adjacent multifamily project. This is looking into the bottom left photo on your screen is looking into the site. So there is an adjacent multifamily property with fire lane, existing fence, and some trees. And then coming the opposite direction up the northbound side of Pleasant Run Road, you can see in the top right here the project peeking out there, the project site peeking out there, excuse me. And then the adjacent multifamily to the north of the property, and then you can see the multifamily to the west. In the top left photo across the street, you can see some of the schools that are across the street. So giving you some more context here, there is a school site here, there is a community center and a park. It's walking distance to public transit and to grocery stores. This was identified by the City of Irving as the market value analysis segment E. There's only a 3% homeownership rate in this area, which is why we're prioritizing homeownership for the development and why the partnership between the city and Housing Channel and Soul are so important. The property is organized around common area greens with walking trails, amenitized space. It is for sale condominium regime. The project met or exceeded the standards of the original MF2 zoning, but in response to SB 840, there was new MF2 zoning written to protect the city's interests. And in respect for that, we're requesting these variances to allow the project to move forward under what had previously been allowed for the site and what it was designated under. This is the updated site plan, a list of variances which you all have received during the working session. This. A lot of this is in response specifically to the city's vision around missing middle fabric, home ownership, and prioritize working class families. And I will open it up to questions.
Does the commission have any
approve this?
questions for the applicant, for Mr. Brown?
I have one question. What's a zero energy ready home?
So the Zero Energy Ready program is being rebranded, but it was the Department of Energy establishing a benchmark for something that was more than code energy requirement, but that would facilitate a home getting to net zero, meaning it would not need to pull energy from the grid to operate. So it still uses grid energy, but if it were to include like solar panels, for instance, it could be net zero, meaning it produces the energy it uses.
Thank you.
Of course.
If you'll just pause for a second, Mr. Brown, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this item? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this item? Okay, I will close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or a motion.
If no further comments on zoning case 2025-365-ZZ, I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Congratulations, Mr. Brown. The motion carries 8-0. Thank you for your time. We appreciate the investment in Irving. Moving on to zoning case 2025-429-CZ, located at 1815 Durham Street. Mr. Furbush, would you like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Darren Furbush. I reside at 2315 East Newton Circle here in Irving. I'm with Blue Eagle Group, and I'm here to represent my client, Mac, and his wife, Karen McNamara. They're requesting us to build a carport on their property, and going through the process of permitting, we figured out there's some zoning that we needed to look at to make sure the property footprint or the project footprint was going to be in a proper place. So we did come up with from the southwest corner of the property, we found where the property line was and designated, and we want to make sure we were 10 foot back from that property line, and then make sure we were 5 foot variance on the east or the west side of that property. So we'll make sure those two things were covered through our footprint. So basically that's it. I don't know if there's any other questions you may. I think those are the two things that, going through Dylan and working with him, those are the two things that were the most, that y'all may have questions with. Anybody have any questions?
No questions for the applicant.
Question?
If you'll
Okay.
just pause, we'll see if there's anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this item.
Mac, you want to say anything?
Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the item? I'll close this item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or a motion.
If there's no further comments from the commissioners, I'd like to move, let me see here. Zoning case 2025-429-ZC to City Council for approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The motion carries 7-1. Thank you, Mr. Furbush. We appreciate it. Moving on to zoning case 2025-441-ZC. Is the applicant present?
Good evening. My name is Beth Groen. I'm on behalf of the DFW Curling Club. My residence is in Grapevine, but our current curling club location is in Irving in 75063. This is not the presentation that I had, but so we are a curling club, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are requesting to have on sale premise of alcohol to the tradition of curling, a longstanding tradition, is called broom stacking, and that is a kind of a longstanding tradition where everybody after a curling match sits down at a table, has a beverage, and
It's community.
yeah, it's a community sportsmanship, just community connection. And so our curling club is also it's very much like a country club in a way where it's a community hub for the community. We will be there for 10 years, and it's a place to have birthday parties, private, corporate events, any sorts of celebration. And so having the on-premise sales of alcohol just is supplementary to that hospitality unification of that ideal. And so that is our request. Any questions?
Thanks. Does the commission have any questions for this applicant? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this item? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I would like to say thank you for coming to Irving to do business. And if we don't have any further comments, I'd like to make a motion on zoning case 2025-0441-CC for a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. And does this mean you're going to be leaving Valley Ranch?
Yes, our new location is 5 miles south of our proposed location.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. Congratulations. And maybe we'll all become curling experts with you.
Thank you guys so much.
Moving on to case 2025-442-ZC. Is the applicant present? Hello. We heard your case at work session, so we're happy to have you back.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Tommy Mann, 500 Winstead Building. I've organized each of the next two items into one presentation.
That would be great.
If I go a little over 5 minutes, forgive me, I'll stay within 10.
You have 10 minutes, so that's good.
It may take me that long to get the slide to advance. All right. Okay. So Tommy Mann, 500 Winstead Building, representing CoreSite. We have representatives from the company here tonight as well as our design team. What I want to say at the outset here is we embarked on this process several months ago with the Economic Development Partnership, and we have endeavored to incorporate every piece of feedback we have received up until this evening, and I'll try to point that out as we go. One of the first things we heard was PUD 6 is a strategically important site for us. The city has adopted new standards for data centers. Can you live without that portion of the site? We said yes. So we have not included the PUD 6 portion of the site. We are leaving 400-foot depth of frontage on 183 for future development, and we're focusing on the 37 acres to the south this evening. When you look at that 37 acres, the context of the surrounding zoning, what we're proposing is consistent. There is either freeway or industrial zoning all around the site. There is a mobile home park. It is zoned industrially. I will address here in a moment what we're trying to do to address that, but that's a legally non-conforming use. We feel like the industrial zoning is appropriate. We only need the industrial zoning in order to request the CUP for the data center. From the developed context of what's around us, the same. There's a huge grade change here, which provides for a natural separation between the PUD 6 portion and where we're proposing and sets this up well for future development. Around us, we have industrial storage, the mobile home park, auto repair type places. We think we can build a beautiful facility that's a complement and uplifts this area in a meaningful way, and we'll show you what that looks like. Get on the ground, you've been out there, these are the surrounding uses, the industrial storage. Note the number of power poles and things that are out there now, and I will talk about that in a little bit and how we're proposing to work into that. So let's get into the details of the data center. First, it's really important to understand the difference between CoreSite and a hyperscaler. You've seen hyperscalers in Irving, and that is typically one customer or one tenant with an insatiable appetite for data related to AI that wants to take up the whole project and build it as fast as they can. CoreSite is a multi-tenant co-location data center developer. It's a 25-year-old company. We'd all love to be 25 again, but that's very old for a data center company. They know how to build these facilities. They own 30 in the country. They've never sold one. Because of their approach to multiple tenants, they don't need to build it all at once. They can be deliberate. They can grow with the infrastructural capacity of their city partners, and we are flexible in the systems and the things we can utilize, one of which was the request to do air-cooled systems. We agreed to do that. Similarly, when we talk about power, all three of these buildings won't come online at once. We'll be able to meet the power that's available without placing too much strain on the infrastructure of the city. This is the site plan. It's 3 buildings. We're very much aware of the new data center standards. We intentionally requested 0 variances from those standards. We have now, tonight, proposed an enhancement above and beyond those standards. One clarification, the 128,000 square feet is the size of the footprint. These are 2-story buildings, so they're actually each closer to 250,000 square feet in size. Because of the way CoreSite approaches these, they have a lot more design freedom than a hyperscale developer, and they're not being driven to create a facility for one tenant. So they will build architectural features into these buildings. They will have a pleasant aesthetic appearance intentionally. These are examples from Denver. Obviously, in Santa Clara, we were able to go higher than 2 stories. In Irving, the max is 2 stories, and we're not requesting a variance. So something along the lines of what you see in Denver there. This isn't just a blank box full of computers. Let's talk about the enhancement we're proposing. So the mobile home park here across Maryland, we've got a large green strip between the curb and the developable area of the site that exists today. So having heard your questions and some of the staff concerns last month, we set our design team out and we've offered voluntarily an enhanced landscape plan that adds 140 trees to the site between us and the mobile home park in that whole area where it's labeled there. It's a combination of ornamentals and substantial trees and cover and hedges and those sorts of things. This is what it looks like today from across the street. The next rendering is with this landscaping we're proposing mature and our 2-story building 300 plus feet away. It's barely visible because it's so far away and it's only 2 stories. And if you could see it, it's a pleasant building. And the building is what you want facing you in a data center. You don't want the generators or the substation, and that's very intentional. The building in and of itself will be a meaningful buffer from the noise from 183 as well. But we think we've worked really hard to come up with an approach here that is appropriate and meets the neighborhood as it exists. Dense slide, but let me just boil it down for you. In terms of infrastructural impact, this is a comparison of traffic that could be generated if the existing buildings were repopulated, if a new warehouse went in, or if we build this site. We are a 50% reduction in traffic from a warehouse, and the types of trips are much less intense. A warehouse has trucks coming in and out all day long. Our main trips are the few folks who work here, other than the trucks during construction. So as far as demand on the roadways, we're much less than what could go in on the site. All right, let's talk about power, and I'll have to do some explanation of what we're trying to illustrate for you here. First, I want to be clear, we don't have to pull new lines all the way from the substation down here to the southwest. We can branch off of the existing high voltage transmission lines that already run all the way up to 183. Our preference, and we understand the city's preference, and if we could control Encore, we would just offer it as a condition tonight, is to branch off at Grauweiler and come this way, and not even have to come to 183, and that is possible. But what we've done tonight is model for you the worst case scenario. If we do have to branch off up along 183, we would think we would have to add 2 poles on 183, and these 2 dots here, and then these 3 would be at our site, and we could pull them down past the PUD 6 parcel onto the northern portion of the data center portion of the site. And here's what they would look like if installed in these locations. This view is what you see today from the northern end of the stadium site. If these poles are added, you can't even see them, but they're there. And this isn't just me playing on Photoshop. This is our engineers using a scaled model and actually putting these things in place for you so you could get a sense of how minimal the visual impact of these poles would be in a worst case scenario. Same exercise on the southern side of the stadium site, which is obviously closer to us, but that view is significantly impeded by the elevated highway. And again, you can see where the poles we would have to add would be. This is the worst case. We think even this worst case is extremely minimal and reasonable to allow this project to proceed. If all you had to decide data centers on was tax impact, this would be a very short hearing and a very easy one, right? But it's still worth pointing out when you consider it in conjunction with everything else I just said. So we're not saying approve this because we'll pay a lot of taxes. We're asking you to approve it because we've taken great care to present a good project, but if we do get to proceed, the tax impacts are significant. This is just to the city. Business and personal property, $9 million a year. $171 million over 30 years. Sales and use tax, that's the purchase of the servers. The tenants will refresh those every few years and pay use tax, and that can be 10 plus $12 million in sales tax versus a warehouse. There's no comparison. When you couple this with all the care we've taken to minimize the infrastructural impact and our desire to be a good neighbor here, we think we've shown that we have incorporated the feedback we've received, and we've presented a good project. We know the city is considering where they want data centers to be in the future. We hope that this is an example of how you want to see data centers approach sites in the future. Thank you for your time. Our whole team is here and happy to answer specific questions. I'm admittedly not an electrical engineer, but hopefully that helped.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Mann?
You mentioned that power lines can be run through two areas.
Yeah.
But have you heard anything from Encore? Like any idea? Is there anything that you can propose to them and they can tell you, hey, there's a higher probability that it may run through here? I mean, how does that go?
So we have approached them multiple times. And Encore's situation right now is, and this is why they had, their demand is so enormous across the state that they are hesitant to make any commitments. But we hired our own consultant to perform a power study and have shared it with them. And they have not said that we must go up here. What our consultant said was we got two options, and they both make equal sense. We've got to branch off those transmission lines that are to the southwest. We could do that at Grauweiler and never come to 183, or we would branch up here. There are not any other scenarios, right? So it's going to be one of those two. Encore hasn't confirmed it. If they would, I would tell you right now. But that's why we tried to go into this detailed explanation for you to understand. Even if we have to branch off at 183, we think we can take great steps to minimize the impact.
Did the consultant you hired, did they give you, statistically speaking, what would it be more likely that the lines will go through? Where the lines will go through?
They didn't assign a percentage. I mean, to them, they think both scenarios are equally plausible and make sense. And frankly, one shouldn't be more expensive than the other. And so we're going to push for the Grauweiler option.
So we're at a 50-50, I guess.
We got two, yeah, they got two options that work, so there's no others. So yeah, we'll call it 50-50.
Has staff received that report?
Yes, we shared it with them. The route, yeah, we've shared it with them. If this would be easier if we could get Encore to stand up here and just tell you, but.
And you made a mention earlier about doing something about the residents to try to keep the sound down for the mobile home park across the street.
Yeah.
You had done some.
So the existing data center standards require either a minimum of the higher of 10 feet or above any of the equipment on the site in masonry screening. So we'll provide that. In addition, we've added these 140 trees and additional landscaping. And then if you just look at the way the site is laid out, frankly, if I can get to the site plan slide for you. So they're over here, right? So they'll have several hundred feet before they get here, and then what they're going to be seeing are the buildings, right? And we've put the infrastructure, the substation, as far away from them as possible over here on this side. We've put the additional utility stuff down here where there are intervening industrial and commercial buildings between us and them. So everything's very purposely sited to be minimally impactful, in addition to the screening wall and the landscaping.
Pardon my ignorance on this question, but these power lines, let's say, go through 183. How high is that cable wiring going through? I mean, is that a 20 feet pole? Is that like a regular metal tower that you see running along the west side of, the east side of Loop 12? How will that look? What will that look like?
These are assuming, and Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong, 80-foot poles, which you can kind of see this one right here in this image. These are the existing transmission poles that they have out there now that we branch off of. So we're not any taller than any poles that are already out there. But again, we think we'd have to add, in a worst case, these two on 183, and then we can drop into our site.
So it will be similar to what is there right now
Oh, yeah, yeah.
on,
These are major lines that are coming this way now to get to that substation, so we just branch off of them. We're not doing anything bigger than what's out there, we're just connecting to them.
So it looks like two of those poles are off Maryland, but you don't have a rendering that shows what those would look like from Maryland or from the adjacent property across the street?
No, I mean, the best thing I've got, this is that side of Maryland today, and the poles that are out there that keep running. And then the transmission ones they're coming up this side today, on the other side of them. And then you have all these light standards on 183 that are frankly the tallest poles out there.
what's the option of going, is it going underground even an option?
We can underground once we get to our site, right? And we prefer to, but we can't force Encore to do it off-site.
So a couple of questions. So my understanding is the current use of the property is vacant. It's a former manufacturing or light
Yeah, it was like
industrial
an
space?
O&M facility for technology and distribution type company.
And so is the current state of play that the applicant is this property under contract condition?
We own it.
Oh, you own it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the owner, and the owner is the data center operator?
CoreSite owns the
Yeah.
property, yep.
Okay,
This is not speculative.
got it, thank you.
I think,
You had a previous request on the site before they owned it, and that was a warehouse that I think was asking for a parking variance, but we purchased it from that seller. So that deal is gone.
personally, I like this data center project compared to some of the ones we've seen in the past. I like the multi-tenant idea. In every business that we all are associated with, we probably use a data center of this sort somewhere in our business. So I'm in favor of the project, generally speaking. Any other questions, folks? Mr. Mann, if you'll just pause, we'll see if there's anybody in the audience. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this case? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for further discussion or a vote.
If there are no other questions from my fellow commissioners, I'd like to make a motion for zoning case 2025-442ZZ be forwarded to the city council with a recommendation for approval.
Can I just make a comment before we vote? It's good, because I know there's a recommendation from staff for denial, so I just thought, oh, not on this one?
Not on this
So
one.
we're just voting for this
Yeah.
one?
Next one.
Let's,
Hold on a second.
well, we received comment, well, they kind of go hand in hand, so let me just I'd like to make a comment. Because I think the change in the planning is motivated by having a CUP available. I know when I first heard this case, I was concerned about the residential nearby and the potential for Encore to locate lines outside city control. But when I visited the site, I think topography is significant. It's relatively isolated from other uses and currently not used. So in terms of considering sites for data centers, I thought this checked a lot of boxes, and I thought it was helpful to see a rendering of where the potential electric lines would go. So I've kind of changed my view that all things considered, I am generally supportive of this proposal. So I just wanted to share that. So, so I'll second the motion, sure.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Congratulations, Mr. Mann. We've heard all the comments for the CUP. Yeah. So we will take these step by step. For zoning case 2025-443-CUP, Mr. Mann, we've heard from you. Is there any other questions from the commission for Mr. Mann on the CUP? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? Okay, seeing none, I will close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion, and this is on the CUP.
I have a question for staff. If they do the tie-on to the line, is that still going to aesthetically affect our PUD 6 by them doing basically a center line tap instead of running it all the way
Way beyond
down?
my pay grade. Yeah, I don't,
Instead of showing what y'all were showing, that is, he's got to go from here all the way up, they're talking about doing basically a tap into the line to draw the power down to his station. So it's not going to be as many poles, as many infrastructure that has to be added in order to bring electricity to them.
yeah, I mean, if they pull it 183 down Maryland and over into their site, then yes, that would reduce the number of poles in front of the PUD 6 property.
And if they go Gar-Wheeler, it's basically.
There's none,
there's
right,
none.
right. So
Okay.
whatever they can do to minimize any poles on the 183 frontage is what would be ideal.
Okay.
In work session, just to remind everybody, we did talk about, related to the CUP, if there might be a stipulation for the air-cooled system to be included in the CUP. You're okay with that?
If there's no further discussions amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2025-443-CUP with the stipulation of having air-cooled system installed to City Council for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Mr. Mann, you have a deal from us. Goes to City Council for February 12th. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for Coresight. We appreciate you all spending your evening with us. Okay, we're moving on to zoning case 2025-444-ZC. Mr. Dewey, come on down.
Good evening, Chairwoman Haka, members of the commission. I'm Jim Dewey with JDJR Engineers, 2500 Texas Drive, Suite 100, Irving, Texas. I'm here tonight in behalf representing the hopeful developer who has the property under contract. He would like to build a multi-tenant commercial strip center here, a small one, around 11,000 square feet. There is a concept plan. Even though it's not required for an SB2, it was provided, so you kind of have an idea of what's being proposed. Tonight, we're coming before you asking for a variance, but not a variance to the zoning ordinance. We're complying with all requirements of the existing zoning CN. All the uses we're proposing falls within that category. But we are requesting a variance to a requirement that's in the Code of Ordinances, but not within the Land Development Code. It's a requirement about setbacks along Beltline. And I think maybe 183, and there's a couple that fall within the same category. The required landscape setback is only 10 feet. But Section 33A of the Code of Ordinances requires that parking has to be 30 feet away. And for one of these centers to be successful, they need 2 rows of parking in front of the building, or they simply won't can't survive. And with 30 feet of landscaping, even though we can only are required of 10, if we have a row of parking, it makes the building area too small. And so real quickly, I'd like to hand out a graphic. I provided this graphic so that you can see that the variance request we're asking for is nothing that it matches the CVS next door. We're not asking to set back or have our parking any closer than CVS. We perfectly align. In that exhibit, you can see I drew a red line along the line. And we're not asking for a variance to any of the landscape requirements in terms of trees or shrubs. So we're providing all the required landscaping. We're simply asking for this variance to a requirement that's not in the land development code, so this business can be successful. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have regarding our request.
Mr. Dewey? For this size, this property, size building you're making, which looks to me like fits very well, what do you envision that occupants, what type of businesses or whatnot would be able to go in there?
Well, businesses that accommodate neighborhoods, you can have offices, you can have a restaurant, you can have retail and personal services, salons, dry cleaner, those type of things. There's a lot of residences around here, a lot of them are apartments, but there's of course, Beltline has a very high traffic count. So those type of uses is what we're anticipating. Now, the developer doesn't have anybody online yet. He's waiting to see if we can get this variance, move forward, close on the property, and then come back and submit for a building permit. And I think then he'll start advertising for tenants.
If you had a restaurant there, would you still have enough space there for what would probably be the required parking?
It depends on the amount of restaurant and your other uses. You certainly couldn't occupy that building fully with a restaurant. Today, after COVID, a lot of these restaurants don't have as much seating as they used to, but we could accommodate a small restaurant or eatery, cafe, sandwich shop, and still have plenty of parking for other uses. Offices require 1 to 300. Retail is 1 to 200. And restaurants are based on seating, 1 to 2.5 seats, I believe. And so it kind of depends on the seating and how much is offset by other uses like office.
Well, looking at your space there, I have to say, I can support this. I think it's a good use for that property there.
Thank you. And again, the uses are all allowed in the zoning. We're simply asking for the different, not to have to be 30 foot to the parking and align exactly like CVS.
Well, it does line up with the CVS parking all the way across.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Dewey, only question I had, because right over in that area, you've got the CVS, and then I thought there was like some flooding back behind that area.
Floodplain?
Yeah,
This entire property was in the floodplain.
okay.
And when this was developed, it was actually developed as a pad site with the residential subdivision just to the north. That is a large creek running through there. It does have a very wide floodplain. We were able to get permission to fill the property. It actually had quite a bit of wetlands on it, which was jurisdictional through from FEMA and the Corps of Engineers. The maximum amount of land that we could reclaim, not by filling and getting it out of the floodplain, but by limiting the amount of wetlands that could be filled in, was in half an acre. So you can see the lot is substantially bigger, but our buildable area was actually kind of reduced due to regulations regarding wetlands. And the blue area on that graphic that they have up is the current floodplain. The blue with the red hatching is floodway, which is far more difficult to get permission to fill in, and we're staying out of that area and have stayed out of that area. Well, there's actually, the creek is just to the north, and that's all floodway. And just to the north of that large creek is the residential development.
Okay, thank you.
And just so you know, in this area, Beltline, 100-year flood, or a flood that has a 1% chance of happening in any year, doesn't go over Beltline. Beltline is inundated during those types of floods.
Any other questions from the commission? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? So we'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or a vote.
If no further comments, I'd like to make a motion on zoning case 2025-444-ZZ for recommendation for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Your case is scheduled for February 26th for final vote with City Council. Thanks, Mr. Dewey. Good to see you. Zoning case 2026-15-CP.
Good evening. My name is Jake Reichenstein. I reside in Grapevine, Texas. I purchased this property about a year ago. Currently on the property, there are two buildings. One is a warehouse type building, and the other is more of a residential house. Currently, this tract of land is one solid tract. I'm attempting to split it into two sections, isolating the house, which is 107 East Pioneer, to become residential with keeping the warehouse zoned, I believe it's zoned community, CC, community commercial, and dividing those two properties so the buildings can be used more for their intent. The house at 107 is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, and there's no real purpose that it can be used for commercial use. Take any questions.
Just because I neglected to say, the companion case is 2025-449-ZC, so we'll take a vote separately on those, but
yes,
if we have any other questions from Mr. Reichenstein, we could probably address them while he's here. Just hold for a moment then. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the comprehensive plan case? Anyone in opposition? Okay, we'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or vote.
If there's no further discussion amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2026-15 CP to City Council for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes for the change in the comprehensive plan. And then for zoning case 2025-449-CC, just for formality, we need to take these step by step. We heard your presentation just now, but this would be the change for the zoning case. Any further questions from council, from the commission? Okay, anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Anyone in opposition? Okay, we'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for a discussion or a vote.
If there's no further discussion amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2025-449- to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Congratulations. This also passes. So both cases will go to the City Council on February 26th. We encourage you to present your case to them, and they'll take a final vote. Ours is just a recommendation for approval.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Reichenstein. Moving on to item number 13, zoning case 2025-456-CUP. Is the applicant present? Yes. If you'll come down and give your name and city of residence, please. We did hear your case at length in work session, so we covered a lot of ground.
Yes,
But you're
ma'am.
welcome to offer any remarks.
Okay, my name is Philip Fowler from Arlington, Texas. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commission. I'm presenting this case tonight on behalf of ownership. Ownership is a daughter and mom. They're Irving residents. So they know the property and they've invested for multiple years. What we're asking the city is to give us a change of use. Right now, we have an R2.5, which is a four-family quadplex. And we're asking to keep it still a quadplex, but we would like to use it as an assisted living, which is an R4 occupancy, which is life safety heavy. So it's kind of with a sprinkler system, but we would still stay 4 units with a kitchen and a bathroom. And the 2 homes are 1 block away from each other, so they would service each other, and the mom and the daughter would be the business owners. It's not for a corporate interest. And that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant, for Mr. Fowler?
Do they have any other homes that they're operating now, or is this their first venture?
This is their first venture. I would say they're supported. My family's been in the home health care business for 15 years in regulations. So they've got good support with the regulations and staff to help them.
Would you repeat that again?
Yes, sir. For their operations, they've got a company that's my family-owned company that has 15 years of history with regulations. So they've researched and they have a good support staff in place for operations.
So they own these, but are they going to use a management company to manage them?
Oh, no, sir. They're going to self-manage, but they will have a third party oversee that they're maintaining all the regulations.
Okay. Is there, in the way looking at the buildings, is there a plan to have any lobby area for when visitors come to
They're not really a lobby area. You've got to have 15 square foot per occupant, which we're going to have a formal kind of living and dining because we're not going to separate these homes. So we're making more of a residential setting than of an institutional setting.
So you don't have a
community. There's not a community. It's your own private living room.
Okay, so how are you providing the food? In other words,
So one of the kitchens will be the predominant area of cooking, and then the staff will distribute food from the predominant kitchen. The other 3 kitchens, we're going to design them kind of like more of a kitchenette, but the 2 front units have a larger footprint. They're larger, and so that one of those kitchens or 2 of those kitchens would be the dedicated cooking area.
So you mentioned like the mother and the daughter are gonna be managing this property?
Yes.
Right. Is that what they currently do for living and somewhere else for a company? Is that their current employment or?
They currently do not, no, they do not do assisted living. They've been in home health care where they went out and took care of people, but they have not made it to this level.
So what will be the difference between home health care and this?
Home health care is for a client that stays in their home and kind of you see people go do daily care for them, help them with feeding, help them with bathing, more only for a couple of hours. Where an assisted living will have a 24-hour staff, which you still have your independent living and you just get support with that, more of an on-call service. And we've got a large population that's aging out of their homes, and that's what's driving this industry. And this kind of model keeps it more like a residential feeling.
So the operators, do they have to be nurses or do they have to be licensed?
They do not have to be nurses. They have to have a manager certificate, and they both have their manager certificate. They're not designed to be practicing or doing health procedures in these homes. They're just made to make an environment that someone is safe, but they're allowed by the state to have a nurse come in and administer care. If somebody needs really a lot of medical care, they're going to place themselves out of a facility like this.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How they, I know from experience, if you're in assisted living, I mean, it's exactly just assisted, but a lot of the people that go in there have to have pill management, and your pill managers have to be certified.
Yes, sir, they have to be certified, and the pills have got to be locked. We use the pharmacy that we use, they have the locking cart that they push, and then we put that behind another locked closet. And those persons are certified to distribute the medication.
And you're going to have, as one individual, or you're going to have for each building, or is one person going to be doing both?
What we proposed in the pre-development is having connector doors between each unit so that the building.
Between Bluebird and Redbird.
Oh, no, sir, they would be separate. Each building would be operating independent.
Okay.
Mr. Fowler, if you'll just hold while we see if there's any other guests in our audience who'd like to speak in favor of the item. Anyone in opposition to the case? Okay, we'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion.
I've got one more
Sure.
question. Yes, sir. At this point, have they determined about what the price point's going to be per room?
It's going to be not per room, but per a bed, and I would say it's between $4,000 and $5,000.
Basically, each one's going to be a two-bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Lit up.
Yes, sir. So that someone would have a companionship because they're two bed. No, we're not going to stack these.
No, I understand.
So each client would have their private bedroom. So because there are 2 bedrooms per a unit.
Okay.
And, I proposed that the max that it could be in the building would be 10, but it's more ideally 8. And just keeping with the footprint of a private bedroom and then your own private closet. And then you'd have the community space that you could come visit with your roommate.
So you do have 2 individuals.
Yes, sir.
Each one.
And I'm assuming y'all are going to be doing an extensive remodel on these, correct?
To meet the standards for the state, yes, sir. Interior, the exterior is pretty much going to remain the same. There's going to be a lot of ramping that's going to have to happen on the site.
And sprinklers.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. And, we have to put we have to get another water meter, so then we have to do a utility easement on the front.
Any further discussion?
Will these, when y'all do your revamp of the facility, the units, are you going to keep individual
Yes,
electric
sir.
meters and all this stuff on them? And
Yeah, we weren't going to change the utility, because we wanted to keep the same addresses. We weren't going to go back and do that. We were going to keep the same addresses and keep the utilities as they are and just add the water meter.
Okay.
Or for the fire sprinkler. Out of curiosity, somebody mentioned this, I think, on the working session. Are each apartment going to be connected?
Yes, sir.
So there will be a door that...
Yes. So that staff can move quickly through the building and...
Go
Yes.
through.
And when in pre-development, it worked with life safety.
We're getting a question clarified
Yes, ma'am.
of our staff.
Yes, ma'am.
This is new for us.
No, this one's it's tough. It's a new industry, and there's a lot of regulations. There's a lot going on with these little buildings. but I do think they serve the community.
While we wait for that, maybe you can help us a little bit with that regulation by the state. Can you tell us a little bit about that they have to go through the owners?
Well, the first thing is, we've got TDLR, which is architectural barriers. So, in the bathroom, it's got to, you would take the bathtubs out and do a roll-in shower, very simple wall-hung sink. So it's very clean. The kitchen, you've got to be able to turn a wheelchair around in. So it's very simple there. We do 20-minute fire rated painting on it. All the finishes have got to be able to be cleaned. And also the outside, there's got to be a little bit of landscape, so it can't be just let go like a rental. It's got to have some standards of appearance. On the exterior, some of the homes over there, you just see the paint flaking, and they've let the buildings age. That's not accepted for this use. There can't be any paint that's aged to that point. So it's got a high standard of upkeep, and inside, everything has got to be operational. And it's inspected once a year by the state, and these things have got to be polished.
What is the square footage?
2,400, 2,470
For
the whole building.
each bedroom is
Each bedroom's about 11 by 12, so it's about 130 square feet.
okay.
Minimum for the state's 100 square feet per client.
At this time, I'll ask for a motion on this case.
Comments? If there's no other comments from my fellow commissioners, I'd like to make a motion for zoning case 2025-456 CUP to be moved to City Council for disapproval.
Second for disapproval. We have to vote on this? Or does the motion fail? Motion fails, so we'll ask for a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for zoning case 2025-456 CUP for recommendation of approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote. We have a motion to approve at 7-1. It will go to City Council on February 26th for that, with that recommendation. So you'll want to be at that meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
We're going to move to your second case. And this was for an unlimited period of time, indefinite period of time for the CUP. We didn't put any restrictions on the CUP for the time period.
Yeah, but the default is unlimited, unrestricted.
Okay. Unlimited.
It'd be good to clarify what it's a default.
So zoning case 2025-457 CUP. Mr. Fowler, we certainly heard your remarks about the first case. These are very similar. Do you have any additional information to share about this case?
No, they're identical. The parking's orientated a little bit different, but the parking is adequate. They're the same project.
Anyone who'd like to speak in favor for the item? Anyone in opposition? I'll close the item to the floor, return it to the commission for discussion or a vote.
I'd just like to make one comment. You understand on the CUP, when we do the CUPs, that if it's not following the criteria of assisted living or whatever, then it will be brought back before us to change it back to a current zoning it is now, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
If there's no other comments from my fellow commissioners for the same reasons, I would like to make a motion for zoning case 2025-457 CUP be moved to City Council with a recommendation for disapproval.
Do we have a second? So the motion fails. We'll accept a motion for approval.
If there's no further discussion amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2025-457-CUP to City Council for approval.
I'll second.
Thank you, folks. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 7-1, and City Council will see you on February 26th. Thank you, sir. We're moving on to zoning case 2025-458-ZC. Is the applicant present?
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of my father, Santo Sanchez. Residency is 1510 Whispering Trail, Irving, Texas, 75060. I did hear a comment earlier about how long the roof has been there. It's a little more expensive to take one down and then take the other one down. Also, I would like to postpone, if that's okay.
Yes, there was definitely discussion about the rear and the side yard, and we do appreciate your interest in postponing this indefinitely so you can visit with staff again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the item? Anyone in opposition to the item? I'll close the item to the floor, return it to the commission for discussion or a vote.
Actually, I have a couple of questions. When did y'all build the carport?
I want to say it was at the very end of this past year, 2025. Somewhere, I want to say maybe November, December. I know there's, the reason as to why I want to postpone is because there's been different information given to me, because I've been here with my father, and I've actually had a few people tell me different things.
And y'all are wanting to still keep the back portion?
So the plan is that, so we were told, yeah, that's the issue with the back, is that we have the on-cord, the lines. And we did have somebody go out there and speak to us about it, because the roof is covering about the whole thing. And we were told that we were able to cut it halfway, because it's like from like our brick wall, 5 feet, to just kind of avoid.
Are you aware that that's going to require an additional variance on the back of your property? That is not on this?
Yeah, yes, sir.
In debt? Okay.
Yes, sir, because the reason as to why we were here is because we were informed that we were supposed to be here due to the side one, because it is the side, and then there's like, it's a little L, so the side is, most of it's covered, and like you probably have enough for like a little shed in the corner, and that space is open, and then the other back side, we have the rest of it.
If no further comments, I'd like to recommend for postponement, zoning case 2025-458-ZC.
Thank you.
Indefinite, correct?
Yes, indefinitely.
Indefinite.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. We have a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely, 8-0. Thanks, and if you'll get with staff this week or next week. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to zoning case 2025-476-ZC. Is the applicant present? Postpone?
You don't have to.
Would you all like to entertain or postponement or proceed without?
If there's not any questions, I'd make a motion.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion for zoning case 2025-476-ZC.
Hang on just a quick second.
okay, yeah.
Since there's, the applicant is not here, does the commission have any questions for the, sorry, moving one more step, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this item? Okay, no one here. Anyone in opposition? Okay, seeing none, now I'll close the item on the floor and return it to the commission for
Okay.
your vote, Mr. Pritchard.
I'd like to make a motion for zoning case 2025-476-ZC be moved forward to, forwarded to city council with a recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 7-1.
Gee, that's my competition.
Yeah. We have master plan, I know, is here, but we're going to take a special fence plan so that we can keep your two cases together. All right, so for special fence plan 2025-477-SP, is the applicant present? If you'll come down. Name and city of residence, please.
Good evening. My name is Ahmad Halabi. I live in Irving, Texas, 75063. I'm trying to extend our fence in order to provide a safe play area for my family, my kids. I have a 4 years old and a 2 years old and a 2 months old, and I'm amazing wife who's taking care of everything at home. So I think this kind of will help him have, since my backyard is limited with the existing pool, this will provide a safe play area for them. I truly appreciate your recommendation for approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Halabi?
Halabi.
Halabi.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Anyone in opposition? I'll close the item to the floor and return it to the
I
commission.
had a question. Is there a HOA in your?
There
area?
is, yes, and I got an approval before, a year ago, and we couldn't finish the project back then, but now we're back at it again, and I'm planning to apply this week, reapply this week.
Okay.
I actually serve on the master board for Valley Ranch, so I spoke with the office today. They indicated they do not have an ARC application at present for this fence. So if you just double check and make sure.
I applied more than a year ago.
Yes,
I'm
they
going
just
to
may.
reapply, yes.
Yeah, they just may need to be sure, but I would just double
Thank
check
you.
to be sure that you have the approval from Valley Ranch before you start.
Thank you.
My question, I was going to ask this, I think I forgot. I think it was to Cody. Was traffic okay with this? Was there any concern regarding traffic?
There is an existing sight line that's out there. They are on outside of that sight line, so that would be what our concern would be here. So they're not in conflict with that.
This is also a question I neglected to ask in the work session, but a fence can be constructed. It's just that it would have a max height of 4 feet, and it would have to have 50% through visibility, right?
or it could be 20 feet back. So they're wanting to be closer than that 20 feet.
Okay.
With an 8-foot
Yeah, with
fence,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, they
with
could be
height.
taller and solid, they just have to be further back. Mhm.
Well, if no further comments, on special fence plans, 2025-477-SFP, I'd like to make a recommendation for approval. Oh, sorry.
Looking for a second?
I second.
Are we able to do an exception as long as the HOA approves it?
Yeah, they're, yeah.
I just don't want us approving something in their HOA.
No, he knows he has to go back to the HOA.
On second.
Okay, Commissioner Khan did the second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. I didn't hear you say that. It passed 5-3. It does go to the city council. No, actually, does it go to city council? Okay, it does go to city council for approval on February 26th with our recommendation of 5-3.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Okay, master plan. I'm sorry we kept you waiting so long tonight. It's the nature of numbering cases, but you have two that you can present together and have 10 minutes, if that's acceptable. So the first is the comprehensive plan, 2026-13-CP, and the zoning case is 2025-478-ZC.
Yes.
Name and residence, please.
Good evening. Andrew Ruig, 3333 Wellborn, Dallas, Texas, 75219, and not a problem at all. It's where you land on the agenda, so I'm used to these things, and thanks for sticking with us tonight. I'm here representing the property owner for these two cases at 101, 200, and 300 North Rogers Road. I think the primary issue in this case, which I'll point out several items related to it, is the comprehensive plan component. Our request has the comprehensive plan piece and then the rezoning piece. What we're really trying to do, and I think this was talked about in the work session, and I've heard a couple questions I hope I can answer, but happy to answer questions as we talk through this. We are requesting ML20 light industrial zoning for warehouse and outside storage uses. Warehouse, we'd like to repurpose the existing building that is Southern Junction for a light industrial or warehouse type user. And the outside storage, we've also called that laydown yard in our application items would be on the vacant piece of property, or I guess primarily vacant piece of property on the eastern side of the site. A couple things I wanted to point out on the site aerial. It was mentioned that, these are two sites separated by North Rogers Road, and the reasoning for that is Southern Junction has some parking issues that are tied to one another, so that's why we're bringing them forward together as part of one request. If you look at these two pieces, and really this area in general, bounded by the railroad on the south, Irving Boulevard up there on the northeast, this is primarily a light industrial type area, a lot of warehouse, automotive, storage type uses. Really I guess I'll call them the odd duck in the area really is Southern Junction at the moment. Way back when, I think pre-2005 or so, this was zoned SP2 for ML20, and I'll point out some of those other items. And then one other thing I wanted to showcase on this aerial, I think I can, here we go. A typical user or a user that we'd like to have as an example, there's a couple, but McGee Electrical Services to the north of us has smaller warehouse component and some accessory outside storage. This is really just for this purpose of this aerial. Along Irving Boulevard, there is a very nice tree line that screens a lot of these items. They have I believe they have the 7-foot screening fence that is required with any outside storage. So we wanted to, they do it well there, and we'd be doing it well for our potential outside storage yard. So I wanted to point that out as I was walking you through some of these items for this request. You've seen the existing conditions, Southern Junction, and then the vacant piece of property. There's a small office building on the 200 and 300 property. And then, I think what the big issue in this request is the mismatch of the future land use map and the existing zoning and existing uses. So as was pointed out, western half is all regional commercial, primarily the eastern half is local commercial. If we look at our zoning map, we're pretty much all surrounded by other ML20 zoning district uses and uses that do not fit the regional commercial or local commercial zoning district. So we feel like this zoning request is compatible with the existing uses that are out there and the existing zoning. I've highlighted, there's 9 other zoning districts that are primarily ML20 zoning districts. To the south here, ML20 uses, SP2, commercial warehouse, another district that we were looking at because it also fits the warehouse outside storage type components. And then just surrounding this, ML20 uses. I believe this one, if you look on the zoning map, also has ML20 uses, ML20, another commercial warehouse, all surrounding the site. So the existing zoning all does not match what the future land use map from the Imagine Irving comprehensive plan suggested at the time. And I understand, there's a difference. When the comprehensive plan was adopted, it's looking at future uses, but there's a couple items that, I think were called out in the staff report specifically. One, that this request is consistent with adjacent zoning and land uses, which I would agree. 2, despite the 2017 Imagine Irving comprehensive plan, area has remained solidly small, light industrial, and heavy commercial, which is also compatible with our proposal for ML20A. Had a couple of discussions with staff on what zoning district would be most appropriate to request. Surrounding us is a lot of ML20, the heavier of the 2 light industrial districts, so we went with ML20A. We're also contemplating a commercial warehouse, but again, this is, we don't have a specific user in mind for this other than someone or some tenants to occupy the existing warehouse space and the potential outside storage laydown yard. But, having said that, we do feel that this is really an issue of the comprehensive plan not aligning with the uses that are in this little pocket surrounded by Irving Boulevard and the railroad. It's a bit of a special case. This isn't a warehouse distribution district, near to the freeway, so it's going to lend itself to some smaller uses. One other thing that I just thought was interesting, I didn't mention this site initially, just north of the 101 site for SP1 for CC and warehouse and outside storage, what we're requesting. And I had to say this, if there's any ticket listeners on the commission, that's actually occupied by All Pro Foundation Repair, which I've heard their commercials for years. So I thought that was interesting, but they're the exact type of tenant that we'd be requesting to occupy space in this warehouse building. You may or may not know the challenges of Southern Junction. It just has a wildly fluctuating ability to generate revenue. Sometimes it's doing well, and other times it's struggling mightily. So the owner is looking to repurpose that building to have a more solid and consistent use, being a warehouse type user, which would fit under this ML20A and other, and be compatible with the surrounding uses that are in the area. You've seen the site plans, but that's primarily what we're requesting. I understand the comprehensive plan issue, which I think is the primary issue as far as the compatibility for future, but as noted in the staff report, this area really hasn't changed. We don't see it necessarily changing in the future, at least in the near-term future, and if there's other changes that take place, I think that can be dealt with accordingly, but like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of the odd duck currently because we're SP1 RAB for the event center use and outdoor market. There's been several iterations of zoning specifically for Southern Junction that have taken place over the years, adding a farmer's market, trying to do all these things to make the site work, but it's really a struggle to keep them in business just because there's not the demand. And I'm sure, you've heard about restaurants struggling, event centers struggling. It's just, I guess, the era we're in now. And this location doesn't necessarily lend itself to this event center use being profitable. So again, that's why we're requesting this ML20 zoning. I listened, I wanted to address some items I heard in the work session as well. One of them was about hazardous materials, and that wouldn't be part of any potential warehousing use. I think in the ML20A code, there's requirements that state you can't have, X, Y, and Z noxious or offensive odors, dust, things of that nature. So that would not be a part of it. And then ML20A also requires that all these uses are enclosed within the building.
Sir, you have about 1 minute remaining.
Okay, yeah, no problem. The last thing I wanted to mention, it's primarily to redevelop the warehouse building, potentially get some outside storage on the eastern side of the site. If the outside storage, it would be a deal breaker for you all. I think our primary intent is to repurpose the warehouse. So, it would be our preference to do outside storage on the eastern part of the site. But if, I think staff, that was a big consideration for them. We're open to removing that and happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Roog?
No, I got a statement. Basically, I can support the warehouse, the ML20. I mean, that's what it was previously before, lumberyard, et cetera. But the laydown area, there's no way I could support the outside storage on it. So with them being combined, there's no way I can support this case. And I don't know, the question was asked if it was possible to remove one or do them separately or what have you, and I don't even know if that's possible. Is that possible, Jocelyn?
To split the cases, or? Yeah, so if they're wanting to, if they both go to ML20A, that would end up, without the outside storage. They would build, some type of structure on the east side. Both of the properties are going to have to stand alone. So whatever tenants they get for the building on the west side, they're going to have to be able to provide parking for all of those tenants on the west side. So that's why the east side existed, in order to accommodate the entertainment use, which has, a high parking requirement. So if it's industrial manufacturing, it'll have a lower parking requirement, but they're going to have to both stand alone once they're split.
Okay, and they would also have to basically no longer operate Southern Junction, correct? Once we do the zoning case?
Yeah, once the zoning is done, the RAB is gone, the entertainment use is gone, and once council approves the zoning, then that will cease to exist, yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware of that, and, for the outside storage use, that seems the most problematic, and we've actually, in our SP2, added that use, but I think it would be fairly easy on our part to remove that from the SP2 site plan and just go straight ML20A uses.
What's the city's take on doing that?
We really struggled with the outside storage.
And
ML20A is intended to be an indoor light industrial warehouse type of use, so I think we'd be more comfortable with that. It's still, by putting industrial here, it's not completely consistent with the rest of the future land use for the area.
But it's consistent with what's there now.
It's consistent, yeah, what's there now, and again, having everything indoors makes a big difference.
So you're okay tonight if we decide to move forward with this, to remove the outside storage on the site 200 and 300?
Yes, sir.
And we can keep when it moves to ML20A, ML20A has somewhat of an outside storage.
So ML28 has accessory outside storage.
Mhm.
What the request was is for outside storage as a primary use.
Yeah.
That's what we struggled with. So
Okay.
ML28 will allow, because there's some other uses around here, electric yards and you
Yeah.
know, HVAC. It would allow that, be able to keep some things outside,
Yeah.
accessory to the office.
The existing
and whatever's
business.
inside, right.
Yeah. So you're okay with that?
Yes, and, I think we'd want to keep the ability to do accessory outside storage, but that would require, like particularly on the east side, we'd have to develop a building, and then they may or may not have some small accessory outside storage component. But our original, plan was,
Well, if we give you a ML20 zoning, like she said, as long as the outside storage is consistent with the same business, you will have some accessory outside storage. It just will not be a primary
correct.
outside storage.
Yes, and that works for us, yep.
That'll work for you guys?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So are you gonna tear down the junction that's there now and build a building?
No, we would repurpose that building.
Okay, and you're planning to repurpose the building across the street too?
I think, I don't know on that one as much as I do know on the existing warehouse building. I do know we would keep that building in place and probably do some upgrades to it and finish it out for a tenant that came in. I know there is this smaller building on the east side of the site. Our original plan was for outside storage, maybe with an office component there. But, just hearing the discussion, we said, okay, well, we don't need to do that. We can do something else aligned with the ML20A. So I could see that being either repurposed or torn down and, redeveloped for something else in the future.
Okay, and then my last question is, so you've had different zoning. I mean, you guys have come before and
There have been a lot of
changed
them,
the
yeah.
zoning. So are you confident that ML20 is going to work from a business standpoint?
Yes, ma'am, yes. Yeah, we find that in, my role as a land use consultant, it's there's a lot of users out there looking for this warehouse space or flex light industrial space, so it's a very heavily in demand type of use.
I agree with you, but I see a lot of these that are for lease signs up also.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they are very confident that they would be able to find several users or interested users for it. So that's why we're going through this process to make that change for, I guess, two reasons. One, to get some other users in there, and two, to decommission a use that's, fluctuates on its profitability, month to month, and it just, is a tough use to have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify something really quick for Commissioner Lightfoot. You had asked about Southern Junction. I know. Jumping ahead there. You had asked about Southern Junction. So they can continue as a legal nonconforming use. So once the zoning changes, they could continue under their existing CO until a new CO. So just because the zoning has changed, that wouldn't stop their operation. They would just now be a legal nonconforming use.
So that brings up a question. Are y'all planning on closing Southern Junction, or are y'all planning on keeping them in business while you are going through this phase?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but I think what would happen is we would keep them open for a period of time and then transition to getting them out, retrofitting the building for a new tenant, and then bringing new tenants in.
Okay.
So it would be, I guess, if the zoning was approved, it'd be an interim thing for them continuing to operate. It would not be for a long term because that, they're, like I said, the volatile use and, we want to get more long-term tenants in there that can, consistently contribute a little bit better.
So the question I got for staff then is that we use Southern Junctions here, and this is used for accessory parking, which nobody parks there because it's not paved. So if we take away outside storage here and all that as primary use, does that take away the parking too?
I believe the CO is tied to that eastern lot as well, so Southern Junction, if they couldn't start developing on the eastern side while Southern Junction's still operating.
Okay.
So it's a package deal either way. It's tied by CO.
Okay.
One moment, we'll see out of our massive audience here. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or motion.
If there's no further discussion amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2026-13-CP to City Council for approval with the stipulation that we're removing the outside storage component on.
Ricky, that's for the zoning.
Yes.
This is for the CP portion. This,
Okay.
So that would be for the next case.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and then, let me rephrase. Zoning case 2026-13-CP, I'd like to move to City Council for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Thank you, Kim.
Congratulations. It passes 8-0 with the case scheduled to go to City Council on February 12th. That's for the land use. Now we do your zoning case 2025-478-ZC. Mr. Rugg is present. Do you have any additional items to mention? Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the item? No. Anyone in opposition to the item? Okay, no. I'll close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for discussion or a motion.
If there's no further discussion amongst the commissioners, I'd like to move zoning case 2025-478-ZC to City Council for approval with the stipulation that we're removing the outside storage component of the zoning case
I second.
as primary use.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. This will go with your comprehensive plan case in front of City Council on February 2nd with our recommendation to approve. Thanks for the consideration. Appreciate seeing you again, too. All right, our last item for tonight is an amendment to the ordinance 455-UDC, the tobacco-related retail businesses. Staff obviously reviewed the proposals at the work session. Does the staff or commission have any further comments or questions about the amendments? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the item? Anyone in opposition to the item? Okay, I will close the item to the floor and return it to the commission for final discussion or a motion.
If my other commissioners have no questions, I'd like to make a motion. Zoning case 2025-478-ZC before the City Council for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion passes 8-0 to be presented to City Council on February 12th. We are adjourned as of 9 p.m. Thank you all very much for your help tonight.